Sometimes rocks look like this, but sometimes they look like this. Father Theophilus Laboureau was a cornerstone of this community and helped to lay the foundation of the town as we know it today. Theophilus Francois Laboureau was born on December 11, 1837 in France in the heart of Burgundy. He was the eldest son of Eulalie Métreau and Philbert Laboureau, a schoolteacher. Laboureau was sent to a variety of schools in the city of Dijon. While he was studying, Theophilus found his vocation and began his studies for the priesthood. As a seminarian, Laboureau met Bishop Charbonnel of Toronto on leave in France. Charbonnel may well have influenced Theophilus with his stories of the beautiful country of Canada. What we do know is that Laboureau returned to Canada with him and continued his studies for ordination at the Grand Séminaire of Montreal. Theophilus became Father Laboureau when he received the Sacrament of Holy Orders on the 14th of January, 1866, at the age of 29. Attached to the Diocese of Toronto, Father Laboureau spent the next several years serving in communities in Ontario, such as St. Catharines, Grimsby, Welland, and Caledon. It was in 1873, when he was 36 years old, that Father Laboureau was assigned to Penetanguishene, a place that would affect his life and the town's history forever. He stepped into a town that was very different from the one that its residents know today. There was no electricity and no railroad. The lumber industry was just beginning. Charles Beck would build the Red Mill that same year, but it would be several years still before even heritage businesses like the Payette Foundry or the Copeland Roller Mill would see the light of day. Even at that time, Penetanguishene was a bustling, diverse, and multicultural place. Its Catholic citizens were made up of people of French Canadian and Irish descent. The town also had many British Protestants who had been part of the community since the arrival of the British Naval and Army outpost. First Nations and Métis families also called Penetanguishene home. Father Laboureau didn't waste any time getting down to business. He quickly became an invaluable asset to the community. He began to establish himself as a man who could unite people of all faiths. You can imagine what a feat it was for him to arrange better lodgings for his parish. They moved into the Orange Hall, that bastion of Protestantism in Midland, from 1879 to 1882. During this time, the construction of St. Margaret's Church was underway, finally a permanent place for Father Laboureau and his parish to call home. This wasn't his only foray as a church builder. After construction of St. Margaret's was completed in 1881, Father Laboureau went on to oversee the construction of St. Mary's of Victoria Harbour and St. John's in Wabashine. But it was in 1886 that Father Laboureau began to leave an indelible mark on the history of Penetanguishene. Father Laboureau wanted to build a monument to the martyrs of Huronia, those brave missionaries who first journeyed into this area and who died for their faith. Theophilus envisioned a place where people of all faiths and people from all over Canada could visit and join in prayer and remembrance. The cornerstone of what would later be known as St. Anne's was laid in September of 1886. Father Laboureau was able to unite people of all faiths in understanding for his massive project. Contributors included the lieutenant governors of both Ontario and Quebec, as well as local residents such as Mayor W.J. Keating, a non-Catholic inspired to the cause. Building St. Anne's was such a massive undertaking, both in cost and size, that the church wasn't finished until 1902. After it was completed, it was nicknamed the Cathedral of the North, no doubt because of its impressive size and its beautiful architecture and decoration. Of course, building churches wasn't enough for Father Laboureau. He was also actively involved in the lives of his parishioners and with supporting local business. Local documents paint a picture of an upstanding, generous, and compassionate man. We know that he acted as security for many people's loans and as a trustee for the investors of the Penetanguishene glass factory. Father Laboureau also acted on behalf of women in an era predating equal rights. He acted as an intermediary between abused wives and their husbands, ensuring funds and property were safely transferred to these women from their husbands. In 1902, when St. Anne's had its official opening, the town of Penetanguishene was starting to look very different from the one that had first greeted Father Laboureau. Things were changing with the new century, and along with the fabulous new church, the town was soon boasting 4 hotels, 3 schools, a library, 2 banks, and a railroad. In February of 1904, at the age of 66, Father Laboureau suffered a stroke. He was ill for several months and wasn't able to return to work until May. 2 years later, in 1906, Father Laboureau retired from his posting in Penetanguishene and moved to Toronto, to a residence at the House of Providence. 2 years later, on October 22, 1908, the 70-year-old Father Laboureau passed away. He was buried in Penetanguishene, his true and final home. But Father Laboureau's legacy continues to live on. In 1909, 3 new bells were installed in St. Anne's Church. 2 were named for the Jesuit martyrs buried at Sainte Marie, Saints Jean de Brébeuf and Gabriel Lallemand. The 3rd they called Laboureau. These bells still ring every day, at 8 a.m., noon, and 6 every evening. They're a sign that Father Laboureau is still with us, singing and spreading joy and happiness to the people of Penetanguishene.